Hey folks, this is Kalani. Professions have always been a great way to make gold in any World of Warcraft expansion, especially at the start of a new expansion launch, but that might be even more true in Midnight thanks to the addition of housing and decor, with decor recipes being scattered through every expansion's version of each profession. It's a bit harder to swap things around these days without losing all of those recipes and progress, so your profession choices matter more now than ever. So let's go through each profession, what new and exciting recipes they have to discover in Midnight, how you can make gold with each one, and which ones are shaping up to be the best professions to make some easy gold in the Midnight expansion. Now before we jump in, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss another video. As we head into Midnight, there are a couple of changes to professions which could have some significant impacts on their gold making potential. To start with, most materials and consumables will now have 2 ranks down from 3, so the lower rank has the silver icon and the higher rank has the gold icon. This goes for all raw gathered materials like ores and herbs, but also for things like potions and flasks. Having just 2 ranks will make it easier to see which one you might want to buy or use in any given situation, and those higher tiers should sell for a pretty penny if you can gather or create them early on. This change does not affect crafted gear in any way. You will still have 5 ranks of crafted gear to work through, so if you're wanting to make some gold through crafting orders, you'll still want to reach rank 5 as soon as possible. The other important change is going to be for Artisan's Acuity. This kind of resource will exist in Midnight, but it will instead be called Artisan's Moxie, and it will actually be profession specific. So Blacksmithing Moxie is only used for blacksmithing recipes, and the Leatherworking Moxie is only used for leatherworking recipes. This removes all incentives for swapping your professions around to maximize your Acuity resource, which is a really good thing in my opinion. As for professions and their gold making potential, gathering professions will always be an easy way to make some quick gold, especially if you don't want to dig into the intricacies of the crafting system. Mining will work in more or less the same way as it did during the War Within. We'll just be collecting different ores throughout the new Midnight zones. You'll still find empowered nodes while you're out gathering, and overpowering them is still a core mechanic which will yield extra resources. Most of these empowered nodes seem to yield some of the new moat resources, so that might be a good way to farm those up. As for specializations, they're very similar to the War Within. Plentiful Ores focuses on gathering more ores from each node and having higher chances to get rare materials. Meticulous Mining helps you get around faster by regenerating your vigor when you mine a node, and you can eventually mine while mounted, which will speed things up considerably. And then Overloaded focuses on empowered nodes, being able to overload them more often and getting more resources and bonuses from each node you find. Herbalism should also feel very familiar if you've ever done it before. We'll have a bunch of different new herbs to collect throughout the Midnight zones, and you'll be playing dot to dot on the map, zipping between your herb nodes to gather up all those pretty flowers. Herbalism also has empowered nodes, and they do more or less the same thing as the mining nodes, provide you with extra resources and extra moats for crafting. One thing that is different in Midnight are the mulches that you can craft and use. Instead of providing you with more and more finesse as the rarity goes up, different rarities of mulch will now offer different benefits. So the green mulch is still just a finesse buff, but the blue one gives you a guaranteed chance to obtain some rare regions on your next gather, and then using the purple mulch guarantees your next gather will produce the higher quality herbs. So depending on which materials make the most money, you could use mulches to squeeze out some extra gold while you're out picking your herbs. The herbalism specializations are fairly straightforward. Bountiful Harvests improves your yield from each kind of herb node, allowing you to quickly gather up more herbs. Botany gives you the same vigor and mounted gathering bonuses that we saw in the mining spec trees, as well as unlocking and improving your mulch creation, and you can spend some points to increase the effectiveness of the cultivation minigame as well. And then Midnight Overload focuses on empowered nodes and getting as many resources out of them as you possibly can. These 2 gathering professions are super simple. You gather up whatever nodes you can find and either sell those raw materials on the auction house or try and use them to craft something of higher value. Most gatherers seem to opt for the easy path and just flog everything on the auction house for that sweet, sweet, easy payday. Skinning works a bit differently because you create your own nodes. You have to kill a skinnable creature to get your materials, which introduces another factor to your gold making potential. You need to find good farming spots with lots of creatures you can skin and kill everything as fast as possible. The faster you kill stuff, the more skins you can get, the more gold you will make. That also makes it more active when compared to mining or herbing. So if you just want to zone out and play dot to dot on the map while watching your favorite Netflix show, mining and herbing will probably serve you better. There are some cool things you can do with skinning though. Thorough tanning lets you sharpen your knife to guarantee special skins, and you can increase your overall leather and scale gathering rates. Gainful gathering lets you gather species-specific regions, gather more meat, and you gain access to these new diffusers that let you actively farm the new moat currency while skinning, so that's quite interesting. And then Talented Tracker is all about creating and using special lures to gain access to unique skinning targets with even better rewards. So there's quite a few differences between mining, herbing, and skinning, but if you just want some easy gold, all three can fit that bill quite nicely. Now, if you are interested in crafting gear, either to save yourself some gold by making your own best in slot stuff, or to try and make some gold by fulfilling crafting orders for other players, there's quite a lot of potential depending on the profession you pick up. Tailoring will sort out all of your cloth gear crafting needs, so there's always some good money to be made there. This time around, Tailoring has quite a few unique pieces that they can create with special set bonuses. The set bonuses may end up being quite powerful depending on the other embellishments and their numbers tuning, but they do require a good amount of specialization to be able to craft them, so it will be a decent investment. Tailors can also craft cloaks, which were quite popular throughout most of the War Within as one of the embellishment slots of choice. The last season and patch being the main exception, so being able to craft cloaks at rank 5 could be very useful. Another big moneymaker for tailors, especially early on, are bags. In Midnight we'll have a new 38 slot bag recipe as well as a 40 slot reagent bag recipe, so you could make a good chunk of change if you can unlock those crafts early on. Everyone always wants to get the big bags as soon as possible. And then something else to pay attention to as we work through the crafting professions are the new decor recipe options. Decor crafting orders made a lot of players a boatload of gold when housing was first released, and you can be sure that folks who love housing will fork over their hard-earned dough to get the shiniest or prettiest new items to add into their collection. The lumber requirements make this even more lucrative. Now for the tailors, their midnight decor options aren't too great. They have a Silvermoon themed bed, some pillows, and a carpet which are okay. These Silvermoon curtains are very cool, and I could see a lot of players using those to great effect, and then this saddlebag is kind of interesting. So there's some pieces in here that might fetch a pretty penny, but you'll see some other professions have way better decor items on offer. Moving on to leatherworking, they'll be able to craft all of the leather and mail armor as per usual, so if you're a leather or mail armor wearer and you want to craft your own stuff, look no further. Leatherworkers actually have a pretty large customer base thanks to their covering of 2 armor types, so there's always some good gold to be made from crafting spark gear at rank 5. Just as with the tailors, leatherworkers have quite a few unique pieces with special embellishments. Unfortunately, embellishment gear always comes down to numbers tuning, so if something is good here, it could make you a lot of gold, but you only have 2 embellishment slots to work with, so not everything will make the cut. Still, it's fun to have some interesting effects on crafted gear. Leatherworkers also cover a lot of profession tools and equipment, which you can make a lot of gold from if you can unlock them early and learn to craft them at higher ranks. They provide several leg enchants in the form of armor kits, so all of the agility and strength users will want to pick some of those up, which can be a decent steady gold source as players replace their gear and get everything enchanted. And then they also have some new decor options, but these are also a little bit disappointing, especially when compared to some of the other decor items we'll see later on. A lot of them are Haranir themed, so if you like that wild plant look, these could be cool to pick up, but I don't find them particularly exciting. It's only simple items like beds, pillows, tables, and chairs. So there is some potential for leatherworkers, but I would probably pick something else if you can't benefit from the gear crafting yourself. Blacksmithing is up next, and this is usually one of my favourite crafting professions to level up early on. You'll have all of the plate gear crafts, which is great if you play a plate wearer or you want to complete work orders for those recipes. But where blacksmithing really shines, in my opinion, are the weapons. Blacksmiths create almost every kind of weapon available in the game, which means they usually have at least one weapon option for most classes and specs. That gives you a very large customer base for crafting orders, and weapons are commonly one of the first items that players craft early in the season because they provide one of the largest power spikes. So if you can get yourself into a position where you can craft the most popular weapons at rank 5 early on, you could make a lot of gold. Blacksmiths can also make weapon stones, which most melee will want to be using, so there's some consistent gold making potential there. They also cover quite a few profession tools and equipment, so having a blacksmith will be very handy if you want to set up multiple professions on your alts. The blacksmithing decor recipes aren't all that exciting though, for me personally anyway. There are a couple of anvils and some silver moon hangers that you can make, and you can make a crafting hammer decor too, which is kinda neat, but as I said, nothing all too exciting. Jewelcrafting is another great profession to look into. They'll still be providing gems for everyone's gem sockets in the same stack combinations, and we have a new set of epic gems, even though the actual effects are the same as the War Within. On the crafting side of things, jewelcrafters cover rings and necklaces, which can be quite powerful pieces of crafter gear depending on the availability of your best stats from the current dungeons or raids. They're usually decently sought after, which can give you a good source of gold. There are also some special rings and necklaces to pay particular attention to. 2 different rings can provide special bonuses. One seems very random, while the other one focuses on secondary stats. There's a necklace that can provide some extra heals or damage over time, and a necklace that gives you an absorb shield when used. All of these do take up an embellishment slot, so it's going to come down to numbers tuning at the end of the day, just like every other embellishment, but there are some special jewelry pieces to keep your eye on. Jewelcrafters also cover quite a few profession tools, so there's some good gold making potential there, and then jewelcrafters also get some cool new decor options in Midnight. You can create a lyre or harp, and both of these look quite sleek and elegant. I can definitely see players wanting to buy these up and create music rooms or entertainment rooms. There's a Harania mural, which could have quite a few different uses, so that's interesting at least. You can create a highborn statue, which will definitely be a hot item, and then there's an hourglass, which looks kinda fancy, and a void-themed armillary, which also looks very cool. Now, Inscription may end up being quite potent this time around. They'll still be milling herbs and creating inks. They can craft staves and offhands, which are usually quite popular with the casters. They'll typically need one or the other, so you'll have some good consistent customers for your rank 5 gear crafts. Scribes will have access to their same utility style crafts as well, including Vantus runes to help with raid kills, reputation contracts for extra renown gains, and profession treatise books, all of which can make you some steady gold. But what's most interesting to me are the Darkmoon cards and their decks. It seems like the same kind of system from the War Within is in play. You have the cards, you can make them into a deck trinket, and then you can turn that deck into an embellishment to add onto a piece of gear. These embellishments were quite powerful for a good chunk of the War Within expansion, so they may end up being some of the go-to choices in Midnight as well. We're gonna have to wait to see those numbers to find out. But Darkmoon decks can also be turned into Spark upgraded versions of the trinket, which are further empowered or augmented by their paired sigil. So not only does this keep the Darkmoon deck trinket itself relevant for longer, but if these effects end up being quite powerful, you could pair the trinket with the sigil for even greater results. These could end up being the best in slot trinkets, and if they are, Inscription could make a boatload of gold. Unfortunately, if the trinkets are bad, no one will care about them, so it's all going to come down to balance tuning, but the changes are quite exciting. Inscription will also get a lot of new decor recipes, and some of them are fairly interesting and fit the scribe theme quite well. We've got books, both floating and non-floating versions, signposts, bookshelves and wall shelves, several quills that you can make, quite a few different scrolls, which could look cool in certain situations, some more bookcases, and there's a bench and a cask thrown in for good measure. A lot of these decor pieces will be must-haves for any library-themed room, which means more gold in your pocket if you can fill the crafting orders for them. Engineering is up next, and they have most of the usual tinkers and consumables that you would expect from a universal combat res, ranged weapon enhancements, and a new wormhole generator. There are some engineering specific optional crafting items that can provide various bonuses, like summoning a robot to deal some extra damage, or there's a personal version of the wipe recovery bot for when you die out in the world all by yourself. We have a new wipe recovery bot and an item to stop food buffs and flasks from expiring, so quite a bit of utility, especially for group content like raids, but there might not be too much gold there. And then you have the same kind of engineering only crafted gear, which could be hit or miss, but either way that's personal, so it's not going to make you much gold. Now, something that could make you a lot of gold from engineering are all of the profession tools and equipment. Engineers cover a lot of tools, and most avid crafters will want to upgrade their tools and equipment as quickly as they can to benefit their own crafts. So if you can unlock these recipes for the higher tiers of tools, you could make bank from engineering. As for the new decor options, there are some interesting bits and pieces in here, and curiously they're mostly Void Elf themed. So we have some charged crystals, large metal frames with void orbs, a void orb light post, a telescope which looks quite cool, and then there are some other little decor pieces which may tip your neighbors off to the fact that you could be dabbling with the void right next door. Quite a few of these are really cool, so I would expect them to be at least somewhat popular. Moving on to Alchemy, this seems to be a lot of the same old same old. They have two sets of potions, one light and one void, but when you get into the nitty gritty, it's just a midnight version of all the same stuff. There isn't really anything new or exciting coming through on the potion front, and the same goes for flasks actually. It's just kind of what you'd expect from Alchemy, which is fine. Everyone will still be using and buying potions and flasks to eke out as much damage or healing as they can, and those markets have always been a great source of gold for invested goblins. It's just not all too exciting. I guess it's worth noting that Alchemy can be good if you want to make your own flasks or potions to save some gold long term, but that's going to be up to you. Alchemy will have a whole new set of transmutes to play around with, and these could make you some good gold if the transmute recipes are valuable, but that's largely going to depend on what other recipes use motes and the other rare materials here, but there's some potential there. As for decor options, they're not the most exciting, but they are quite on theme for Alchemy. They have a silver moon water fountain, an entropic illuminant, which looks like a fancy brazier, there's a pot of Harania preserving agents, which don't look very safe, as well as some other Harania themed pieces like the root bound vat, and there's a sun smoke sensor as well. So there are some interesting pieces in here, but nothing super crazy or exciting. And then last but not least, we come to Enchanting. Enchanting is a bit of a weird one because it's kind of a gathering profession and crafting profession rolled into one. Taking Enchanting to just disenchant all of your spare gear is an okay way to make some passive gold, especially if you're running dungeons early and often. A lot of players pair Enchanting with Tailoring, as Tailoring doesn't really have its own gathering profession either, so that's quite neat if you're looking for something to pair with your tailor. But most of the gold for enchanters usually comes from creating and selling enchants. We've got a good mix in Midnight. You can enchant boots, chests, helms, rings, shoulders, weapons, and profession tools, so you should be able to make some good gold here, especially if you can craft the higher rank versions early on. We also have new recipes for all of the Gleeful Glamours, and a new one for the Harania, but I'm not too sure if they'll make any decent money with the War Within recipes still available. What I'm most excited about for Enchanting are the new decor recipes, because most of them are animated, as you might expect from an enchanter. There's an animated hammer and pickaxe, a self-sweeping broom, a floating golden globe of water, a void elf themed mailbox, a fiery plant campfire, a self-pouring bottle of wine and wine glass, and this very cool floating magic spellbook. What I love about this item specifically is that the pages actually turn, and the pages you see will change when that happens. So it's not just a standard animation loop. Well, I guess it kind of is, but at least it's not just the same page turning to the same page. So that's super cool in my opinion. So that's how each profession can make gold and how we think they're shaping up so far in Midnight, but where does that leave us? What professions should you actually pick? Well, if you want something easy and don't want to deal with crafting orders or trying to get rank 5 crafts, go with Gathering. Mining and herbing are usually the best bet here, especially early on, but skinning can make you some decent gold if you get lucky with the special drops. Skinning can also be a lot easier if you don't really have to move around too much, just find a good spot to AoE down skinnable monsters and go to town. down. Enchanting also deserves a shout out here. You can make some half-decent passive gold by simply disenchanting your unneeded items and selling the materials. So for easy professions, go with gathering or enchanting. But if you want to make some serious gold, you're looking at one of the crafting professions. The main caveat here is that you will need to understand the crafting order system. That's where most of the gold is going to be. I would spend some time in this last week of the War Within really getting to grips with crafting orders and how they work. If you don't understand the system just yet, it will be worth it in the long run. As for which crafting professions to take, you can gamble on the cool decor recipes that you think might sell for the most moolah, you can bank on players always needing more consumables with Alchemy or Enchanting, or you can prioritize your own needs first. Take a crafting profession that lets you create your own gear and then just try to make some gold on the side. If you pair that with a gathering profession that supplies your materials, like mining for blacksmithing or skinning for leatherworking, you could make some decent gold and craft your own gear on the cheap. Personally, I will be keeping my eyes on Inscription. Those Darkmoon card trinkets could be huge or a complete flop, and it's all going to come down to numbers tuning, so that will be a massive gamble. But those are the best professions for making some easy gold at the start of the Midnight expansion, so that's it for this video. Now, if a lot of this profession stuff went over your head, don't worry. We're going to have a video that goes over everything you need to know about the profession system as we head into Midnight, so no one should get left behind. But what professions are you going to run with? And what are your crafting goals in Midnight? Do you want to rake in millions of gold, set yourself up to be completely self-sufficient, or maybe something else? Leave all your thoughts in the comment section below. A big thank you to all of our supporters over on Patreon and to all of our members here on YouTube. You can see their names floating by on screen. If you're interested in supporting the channel and getting your name on screen, you can find links in the description or click the join button just below the video. If you enjoyed the video or found it useful in any way, make sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you're always kept up to date. Thanks for watching, folks, good luck and have fun, and as always I will see you next time.